Welcome, everyone, to the 97th podcast. We have two special guests today because our friend Brian is out this week. So shout out to Joe for creating the deck, but Jan and Hans, how's it going?
Hi, what's up, everybody? Glad to be here.
It takes two people to replace Brian.
Always, yeah.
Definitely.
Hans, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. It's been quite an eventful week this week.
Well, with that, anything specifically top of mind you want to share?
Well, I mean, the stock is just absolutely ripping today, so that's always interesting.
Yeah, so what he's talking about, it was up, I think, as high as 9% today alone. If not, it's hovering around 7% up, which is pretty insane. But yeah, full recovery. So it's been crazy to just see it well over 300 a little bit for the past couple of hours.
That was like 306 a few minutes ago.
What were you for you? What do you think is driving that? I mean, it's hard to. It's like I feel like Tesla is like it's kind of like Bitcoin, and like you just don't really know, right? It's like there's not always a reason for it, but
yeah, it is hard to say. I mean, the thing that it is hard to deny is that we're getting so much closer to this robotaxi launch event in June, and assuming, maybe it's the beginning of the month, maybe it's June 1st. And I think there's all of the positive sentiment that's coming out of Tesla, the company, not just things that Elon is saying around this event, I think is creating a little bit of excitement among a lot of people. And once they display that technology and show that they can de-risk the business case of a company that's transforming into a software earnings machine, that really drives a huge leg up from where we are today. And so my guess is it's just people that are interested in that story. Potentially, I'm not a huge options guy, so I'd be curious to see from people who are like, is there a bunch of options activity going on right now that's driving large moves? Because market makers are having to also facilitate those trades, and what all's going on?
Yeah.
Well, I think anybody who drives FSD daily and they're just sitting in their vehicle while the vehicle does all the work is pretty aware of what's about to happen. People who aren't using it are the ones who are surprised at all the information that's coming out, and they'll be surprised at June. The rest of us not so much.
All right, so Penny, what's going on, man?
Yo, what's happening?
What's happening?
Yeah, no, we're just quickly catching up about the stock. It popped almost 9%, 7 to 9% today. So it hit 306 or something like that. Hans was saying. So we're just getting thoughts on potentially what could be driving that. And I think both Joe and Hans were, saying what's imminent, which is the robotaxi display and stuff in June.
I didn't check the market at large. Is it up as well? I know Trump yesterday was talking about how everyone's buying stocks, baby.
Yeah. No, that's for potentially part of it. I don't think I saw I did see a lot of the stocks I own were all in green. So that could be one of the things. It could be more of like a macro, but Tesla's up, I think, more than most. Yeah. Like Apple's up 1%, Meta's flat essentially. So I think it's just them specifically.
Yeah. The NASDAQ is flat basically. So
yeah. All right, well, let's just jump into some of the news. So Joe's always comes up with the best headlines. Tesla giveth and Tesla taketh. So if you have a Cybertruck, they're actually giving away potentially up to, I think, 1 year free of FSD for a trial. So that's huge. And then the other big news, and this kind of potentially goes back a little bit to the original launch in 2019 of kind of not guaranteeing, but advertising 500 miles. And they also just announced that they're removing the range extender altogether and they're refunding money. But what were your guys' thoughts on this? I think either one, maybe one's more significant than the other. Hans or Jan or Penny, who wants to jump in? Well, not all at once, please. Not all at once.
I think free FSD is always a good thing, right? Like, who's going to complain about trying it out? The free trials always work out well. As far as the range extender, that always seemed like a joke to me. It became even funnier when they started taking deposits for it. It just seemed like such an afterthought idea for the engineering prowess of the Tesla team to just lump something in the back of the truck. But hey, those were non-refundable deposits that they're giving back. So kudos.
Yeah, my opinion on that is when we saw the initial plan of the Cybertruck or the rumors, there was once a chart or something like or a side cut or I don't know, a plan or whatever that showed double stack batteries. And I think this was once an idea, but then it became apparent that this will not happen. So they made it for the extender or with the extender. And then they figured out maybe, probably also too complicated for ramping up. So it fell through in the end. But people have to remember here that I think Tesla is more operating a little bit more like tech companies in that sense, not like car companies, because why would they just put something out there that's too complicated? So they are shifting all the time. That's why also the Roadster got delayed so much, because then strategy changed and then they had to do something else. Of course, it's sometimes weird to see from the outside, from a car company, that they're shifting so much. I mean, Tesla's not the only one that scrapped an idea in the car space. We all know that many nice concepts in car shows never came to fruition, but the Cybertruck did in that extent that it got there. And I think it makes sense that they now promote it with FSD, because I was just holding my face before that when Joe talked about this, because I'm in Germany and all I have is the Tesla and Starlink may be connected, but we don't have FSD, and it's super sad because I tested it there, and I will be back in the US, but I will test that again with the Cybertruck, especially. That's something I'm looking forward to, and it makes sense to do this promotion like this. Those work always pretty fine, in my opinion. We saw that with the charging, and just my thoughts on that.
Man, FSD just keeps getting better and better. I can't get enough of it in my own Hardware 3 vehicle. I can't imagine how good it is in the Cybertrucks now. A year is a really long time for a free trial, especially when we're coming up, 1 month now from unsupervised? Now, I know that's not for all the Cybertrucks, but presumably they're going to scale that out over the next few months. And there could be quite a bit of overlap between fully unsupervised FSD and this free trial. And I think that's just absolutely incredible. My expectations were that once it's like, you can take a nap in the car, that the price is going to at least double and go back up to 200 was kind of what I'm thinking. So to get it for free for some period of time for new Cybertruck owners, hopefully that will encourage, some more purchases there. I think that's really cool. Also, customer satisfaction, maybe hopefully make up for anyone who was really expecting that range extender. Personally, I think the number of people who need something like that are just in such a small percentage that it doesn't make sense for Tesla to be spending a lot of resources on it. 500, that's a great number. And maybe if you're doing a ton of towing in your truck, it may come in handy. But let's be honest, most Tesla drivers don't even use superchargers, right? They charge in their garage, and most of our trips, on a daily basis are probably under 100 miles. So, it's a little sad. I think, from like a technology perspective, like it would be cool to have a Cybertruck with a range extender, to be able to go 500 miles if you have some house out in the backwoods or whatever. no access to superchargers. But I really think it's a nothing burger at the end of the day.
Hans, you're on mute.
Still muted, Hans.
Yeah, no worries. He's still on mute.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, interesting. Looks like the cord issue. So anyways, yeah, from a product portfolio, it is unfortunate because, you know, I think having a 500-mile, like if you're going to have a pickup truck, you should have a 500-mile option or, you know, roughly thereabouts. And like this is going to be something that Chevy is going to be able to hold over Tesla in the EV space for a long time because they have a truck that legitimately has a lot more range and a lot more capability than the Cybertruck. That said, you know, from a business perspective, it probably doesn't make sense to make this. I think that Tesla they've said that they are battery constrained. And so between the combination of, you know, the complexity of the range extender as a product when it's not even, you know, integrated into the truck. So they've got to put this pack thing in your bed. It takes up permanent bed space. It can't be put in or taken out. Like it just was kind of a not great idea to begin with. It was a half measure to try and deliver on this. And I would guess that the number of people that actually put it on order was not what it needed to be in order for them to justify the product. And so, yeah, just kind of the whole thing doesn't make sense. But the business really is focused on now moving to autonomy. So like the earnings of the business are going to be defined by how this robotaxi launch goes. And then as far as, you know, how do you allocate your battery? If you're battery constrained, where do you want more of those batteries to go into? And I can guarantee you they're going to choose Cybercabs or more, you know, Model Y robotaxis over range extenders 10 times out of 10. And so I think this is a smart move from a business strategy perspective, even though it is kind of unfortunate, like I said, from the product portfolio. And then on the auto steer, I don't have any issues with them not providing that on the Cybertruck specifically, but I would be concerned somewhat if, I don't know if concerned is the right word. It'll just be interesting to watch what they do with the rest of the products. Is it just that they don't want to invest engineering time into providing the auto steer functionality for the Cybertruck specifically? Or is this signaling a shift that auto steer is not even going to be a feature that they make available on new car sales across the entire sexy lineup? I think that would be a significant development. If so, right now we don't really know how that's going to fall.
Well, I'll push back on one or two things. So the first thing about the auto steer, I think that's gonna become one of those things that's gonna have to be included regardless, because it's going to be a safety feature, right? So I think Tesla's looking at it like, you want FSD or not. So I can see that happening. As far as the mileage for the Cybertruck, I mean, we see this with the Lucid. Lucid has over 500 miles of range. The Model S doesn't. It still doesn't even match the sales. So I think Tesla will be fine not having a 500-mile range truck. I think the Cybertruck itself. I think Tesla will be fine not having a 500-mile range truck, like legit. Yeah. Because why? I mean, you see it. You know what I mean? Like, Tesla doesn't need to lead in every single space. As fans, we think they do, but literally they don't. They're still selling. Their numbers are so great that they're low numbers. I mean, they've fallen 70%, and that's still all-time highs for most companies. So in some countries. So, I mean, I think Tesla's going to be okay. I don't think they need it. I think it'd be great to have it as something, a feather in their cap, but I think they're realizing what I realize, and the truck's gonna sell how it's gonna sell because people want it for its design and truck things, but most trucks don't have what these things are offering anyway. I mean, you can go out and buy a Tacoma. It's not going to give you 500 miles of range. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah, my two thoughts. I'm probably, I kind of echo probably more so what Hans was thinking is that, and partially what you're saying, Joe, too. But like ultimately, Tesla's going to look at all of this stuff through the lens of the Cybercab and where really the products and the product roadmap, all things are going to be kind of like leading through that from a vehicle standpoint. That's really the future. Like if I wanted to, for example, like the Cybertruck, we don't have we have a rear view mirror, but the tonneau cover is up 99% of the time and you can't see out the back. So imagine like, yes, in a perfect world, it would actually have a screen showing in the rear view mirror on there that you have it on the screen. But even little things like that, they may not, from a consumer standpoint, it's a great ad. And even let's say from a luxury vehicle, be something. But when you think of, it's almost like you have to have that in mind. But then you got to look at the Cybercab and be like, is that where Tesla's headed? Are they going to be adding small and specs and things like that? And then the second thing is that, I remember, I wasn't the biggest fan when Tesla got rid of, I think it was, the right-handed side S and X. But that was my initial thoughts when they got rid of that. But then I had to realize what Tesla's looking at is they look at data for everything, whether the data is something when, you think optically is great for the customer or not, they're looking at the data, right? So for example, they probably looked at, okay, making this up. There's 80,000 Cybertrucks on the road. How many people have a range extender? Is it 1,000, 2,000? Is it 30,000, right? That's how they're going to look at it. And also too, if the volume isn't quite what they're expecting for the Cybertruck 2, they're just not going to continue to invest in something that is going to maybe be for 1,000 customers. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's not like they just aren't using data to initiate this decision. I think it was probably pretty clear decision for them. All right, jumping into the next one, I'll throw this one to Joe.
I have no idea what this means. I'm just kidding.
What's free cash flow?
So at Tesla, the cash flows freely. I thought this was pretty cool because James had made the previous post, the cumulative revenue update, and then Elon Musk had commented about it, and so now we have the free cash flow update. And I think like Hans can speak to this more, but the eventuality of this, all these charts are going to look like the revenue update eventually, and you can see it. Like you'd have to be blind not to see it, which I think like a lot of Wall Street is right now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to what's about to happen. And free cash flow is always nice.
The beauty of this chart is the curve, right? If you look at a cumulative cash flow chart, just by nature of it being cumulative, it's always going to go up and to the right. That's how things work. But this is like such a steep curve, and that just shows.
Unless you're Rivian.
What's that?
I said unless you're Rivian, and then it just keeps going down and down.
Well, flat, right? Yeah. Cumulative revenue can't go down, I guess, and I don't see how it would. But you could definitely have
not revenue, but cash flow.
Smaller gains, and then this cumulative free cash flow chart just ends up being much more flat. So love to see the shape of this one, and definitely expect it to get even steeper in the coming quarters.
Oh, Hans, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the interesting thing, if we go back and remember that Elon talked about the fact that when they launched the Robotaxi network, they might run the company at cash flow break even. And so, there may be a period here where, as far as free cash flow goes, we're kind of going sideways. So it has a nice curve up and then hits a plateau and then goes sideways while we're building out this massive network of robotaxis around the world. And then eventually, when they have reached saturation in those markets and they're not aggressively investing in building out this fleet that they own, then all of a sudden it just hockey sticks basically straight vertical on both, like revenue will be climbing the whole time, but free cash flow will go just parabolic straight up. And that's going to be a very, very interesting time for the stock.
Yeah, my thoughts are, just I think agreeing with what Penny was saying, just seeing this like the hockey stick, because again, once it starts being positive again, it's still very hard to continue to increase, especially in the automotive business, the free cash flow, right? That's like something that you don't want to take for granted. But I completely agree with the fact of the nature of this curve here, especially, you can just see it and it's gradually consistent, especially these past 4 or 5 quarters. It seems pretty consistent that it's going up, but this is a huge tail. I mean, $37 billion in cash really sets them up long term to manage, huge macro headwinds, or to make large investments or acquisitions that need to happen. So really exciting to see this, especially knowing just literally several years ago where this company was. Even in 2020, there was that scare of the factory being shut down, and worrying about, bringing in income and stuff. So really cool to see this. So I guess this was interesting. So I think there's an event that's happening, the Formula SAE. I could be saying that wrong, but we're excited that Tesla will attend both the May and June Formula SAE competitions this year in Michigan, and we'd love to meet you in person. Our recruiting and engineering teams attending competition are looking forward to taking talking shop on site. So I thought that this was really interesting to see that they're even looking at what's happening on the track and engaging with students. But this has always been, in my opinion, such a great way to talk and interact with the young talent and really potentially recruit. I mean, I think that's ultimately what this is about. Hans, I think
that's definitely true. So, for those who don't know, Formula SAE is a competition that colleges enter into, and so students build a small Formula style track car that usually runs on some sort of a motorcycle engine and weighs under 1,000 pounds. And they, take these out to the track. They compete them. There's a whole lot of work that goes into building these custom cars from scratch. And so it's a great place to engage with engineering talent that is specifically interested in cars in general, but not just cars, but fast cars. And you can get a really good sense for what an engineer is capable of based off of the input that they put into a team like this. And so it's a great event for developing engineering talent in the automotive sector in general, and a great place for Tesla to go recruit engineering.
Joe, cast aside.
Yeah, I think so. What we're looking at here is castings for potentially Cybercab. But Joe Tetmeyer had posted this most interesting details on these Giga Texas Cybercab front underbody castings. At least 305 have been made. That's crazy. Do you think we're looking at like on 1010 day there was like 20 Cybercabs, right? And these are all handmade. You're looking at the unboxing process for these to be added on. How many Cybercabs do you think are going to happen on day one of this launch?
Well, it's hard to say at this point in time. This is so they have to get the molds really dialed in for the casting machines, and then they have to get their process dialed in as well. And so part of this could just be really trying to put the casting machine through its paces for the Cybercab specifically. And then they also need, they're going to need those castings to then do all of the testing with all of the downstream, like every single other operation for the car that has to do with either the front of the car or the back of the car as they're doing this unboxed method. So like it's going to be something that runs in parallel. And so the rear of the car will be assembled as a sub-assembly. The front of the car will be assembled as a sub-assembly. And so those lines that are, rear and front, they need to actually have castings that they can be building on top of to then do all of the work to get those lines ready and up and running as well. And so we're going to need a whole lot of these castings just for them to then do the later work of getting the rest of the line up and going. That doesn't really tell us a whole lot about timeline, but I think it shows us that we're probably on track roughly for an early 2026 launch of the Cybercab, and then we'll know more about what the volumes are that they're going to have once we get closer to that, because then they'll start ramping up the casting machine, and we're not going to see hundreds, but we'll probably start seeing like thousands of those castings before the actual production ramp starts. And those will have to, be stored somewhere. If they move them outside and we can see them, then we'll get a good hint. And that will be the real signal that Cybercab production is about to start.
So my thoughts on this was, I'm not sure if I'm not informed or something, if I've missed something, but my thoughts were when I saw this that it could be maybe potentially also the case that the castings could be utilized for another vehicle category, probably, maybe. If the robotaxi pacing is not as fast as they thought it would be, that could be a fallback, because I'm still an advocate for bringing out a smaller vehicle here in Europe, because here regulation takes so long anyway to get the FSD ball running finally. Even if we have gradual improvements in the or we can see something on the horizon maybe even, but it still will take immensely long until something like this will happen here. So I think this having the opportunity to kind of shift over makes a lot of sense, because the entry level price here needs to be lower to really catch on mass production. I mean, many Germans buy the BMWs and everything from the pricing, they are pretty high. Also, the Model Y is pretty popular here, of course. But I see still that every time I look around, the most common car are like VW Golfs, Fiat 500s, for example, as well. Smaller cars. So it just makes sense to have this overlap or this gap time. So that's something I was thinking, but I could be wrong. But I think if this goes through and the test is positive and it works out, then they are ready to massively deploy those, and then they won't sell them, I think, to Europe or something like that. I think they will be just using them for the robotaxi fleets. Just makes sense.
So the good news, bad news is that Tesla is not ready for that type of production with being battery constrained how they are right now. I don't even think that's on their radar right now to make a smaller, more cheaper vehicle like that. I think like what they're planning to do is like what you're looking at with the Cybertruck, right? Like you have production of these vehicles that you already make in the millions, just scale them back, take stuff out and make them cheaper and put those out, because that's what you can already do. I don't think they're ready to scale up another vehicle that would potentially sell like multi-millions of units, per freaking year, that would be like probably double the production of what they have right now per quarter in that vehicle alone. So I don't even think they're even ready for that. So yeah, I don't see that happening. Sorry, Jan, you don't even have FSD, man. You ain't getting no smaller vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting to see all of this happening outside. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm an expert on, Tesla manufacturing, but I think what they're, they obviously know how this is going to turn out in June. They know where they are as a company in solving this. And once, in my opinion, once they feel like they're in a good place and they're moving forward, which they seem to be very confident, especially with some of the stuff that they're not only tweeting, but It's going to really come down to regulation will be the probably the biggest blocker and limiter. And the last thing that they probably want to do is have a full lot of cybercabs with that are like literally ready to be released autonomously that are just hanging out on the lot. But the thing is, once they are unblocked, it's just going to be a matter of how many, especially for the first like 5 years, how many can you put on the road that like, and how fast can you ramp? And they're going to be running like 1 billion miles a second if they can even run that fast.
I think we're going to have to see battery production scale up before that happens. So that's what I'm saying.
100%. And that's partially why you're seeing a lot of these, like the Megapack factory starting in Texas and some of these other things that they're starting to ramp. And then China's been unlocked earlier this year. So there's a lot of that that's happening. And then there's, other things like Redwood Materials and the work that they're doing to help potentially, add into some of that cathode, which is one of the main ingredients in the battery.
Is battery constraint still, excuse me, a major problem? I was under the impression that that wasn't as big of a concern anymore. I do think that it's highly likely that these are Cybercab castings for the reason that, they want to be ready. Like you said, John, once it's approved, once the regulatory everything is behind us, how many can you print how fast? Because these are money printers. And it seems like with unsupervised FSD around the corner, they would absolutely be highly prioritizing whatever it is that they need to do, whatever kinks remain in the manufacturing of the Cybercab. So I don't think that it's another model. I think that it would be just really weird for those to show up on the lot before the Cybercab, given the timing of unsupervised FSD. I didn't fully process exactly what they said in the investor call most recently, but I think that it was along the lines that it's going to be made on the Model Y line, right? Which just continues to solidify the idea that they're just going to be stripping down Model Ys for the new cheaper vehicle. I think that's what makes the most sense to me. It is. The market will grow significantly if they can shave $5,000 or $10,000 off the price. And given what they did with the Cybertruck, I think that is possible for them. Some of the changes I'm not like super excited about. I heard people talking about potentially a newer Model Y having no light bar, right? Like the light bar just looks so cool. I don't want them to take away any of the cool looks. But yeah, that's my speculation. I think those are Cybercab castings, and I don't think we're going to see a newer compact soon.
Yeah,
just to answer your
just one thing I've meant that they share a similar platform. That's what I mean. Not a new category or anything. That's what I've meant, that they are flexible in just utilizing this, because even now, even if they are still battery constrained or whatever, that's something I find so interesting in Tesla, that they are in the field with so many different types of technologies, and they can really shift strategy pretty easily, or easily. It's not that easy, but you get what I mean in comparison to other car companies, for example. And also when the approval process is more prevalent, or you can see it in the US being coming into fruition, or how you say, then I can see that battery constraint is not as much of an issue, because then you can utilize the taxi more and more and earn money this way then as well. Because I mean, the flexibility is just a thing. Other car companies can't do that. That's so interesting for me. Or also with Tesla Bot, or shifting gears, even when we have battery overproduction, then they can just build more megapacks, for example. It's just crazy how this ecosystem that's building up right now is happening. It's just my two cents.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to the battery constraint question that Penny raised. And, I think we were, before the election, we were headed into a world potentially where there was an oversupply of lithium ion batteries, but the question marks around battery constraints really came in with all the tariffs, that as the US really clamps down on Chinese lithium ion battery supply, then that creates a lot more difficulty. So, we've got massive incentives for US made batteries, but we don't have that much supply yet. And so just trying to navigate, are there enough batteries that are made in the right places to be able to be economical given all of the trade barriers? I think those are the main questions for kind of the near to medium term. And then Tesla is, aggressively trying to ramp their 4680 project. Obviously, they've got finally, it seems like they have ironed out the cathode and anode dry battery electrode processes, and they've got their refinery now as well going. So between those things, maybe they can over the coming years really be able to supply what they need apart from what the rest of the suppliers can do here in the United States. But yeah, without more certainty around how economical it's going to be to get lithium ion batteries from China, it does get to be a little bit more difficult. And we know that, Tesla's supply chain team is incredible. They have been working on this problem for a long time. I think they, when you look at the strategic moves that Tesla's made over the past couple of years, it seems like they kind of, had an idea that this might be something that could happen. And I think they've, definitely been the best out of all the auto manufacturers at navigating these sorts of disruptions.
More Tesla semis in hands of partners. So there's been a lot of brands that we've been, seeing on the road. Whether I think the latest one was Uber Freight. We've seen Walmart, Costco. We know Pepsi and Frito-Lay, SAE. There's so many partners on the road right now that are testing. And the insane thing is that Tesla is running part of their supply chain to get batteries from Sparks, Nevada, all the way to Fremont. It's all being pretty much run. I can't say if all the batteries are being imported by 100% by the semi, but a lot of them are. And so, and we know if you are new to kind of the Tesla space, Tesla's launching a brand new factory right next to the Gigafactory 1 that is going to mass produce these Tesla semis. And I think it was something, I forgot what is it? 50,000 a year is what this factory is going to be able to do. But more importantly, 80% of all the emissions are coming from gas trucks, and this is going to have a huge impact on that space. And so it's great to see in this case, they saw, US Foods, which, is a major distributor, they approximately have 250,000 restaurants and food service operations. And you're going to see this because I think in the same way, if you have a Tesla and you go from a gas car, and not every people are going to have their edge cases, but on the average, right, the cost of maintenance over a 5-year period is cheaper than a Toyota Corolla. There's no regular maintenance that you need to deal with, and really, the cost to charge your car versus gas is a lot cheaper. I mean, it's at least 30 to 40% of probably what you'll spend in some areas, in some states, maybe even places like Texas. It's 20% of what you would be paying in gas. So it really just depends. But when you think of trucking and the routes that they're doing, because those routes are already predefined, it's just going to make sense for you as a company. And even based on the regulations that they have in California with 30 million people here, and getting rid of gas trucks off the road, this is going to be something that is partially something you'll have to do as a company, but also too, just the reasons, like at least from, I think a couple of the snippets that I've seen, so I'll get off this rant, but truck drivers that have switched to the Tesla Semi or have experienced it, like they love it. They don't want to switch back. So that's what I've seen and heard from. Again, it's really exciting. But what were y'all's thoughts on, seeing another major food service distributors with the the Tesla Semi?
So a lot more batteries. so,
Oh no, no.
Just a little bit.
Now we
So
know where
there's
the batteries are.
yeah.
Semis
Yeah.
and megapacks, are both very battery hungry products. And then when you layer on top of that, trying to ramp up millions of units of Cybercab, I mean, that is that's the demand side of why we're thinking about battery constraints, is because there's so many products that are going to use a lot of batteries here in the near future.
Yeah.
Well, real
Sorry,
quick.
sorry.
Megapacks are LFPs though.
Yes, but it's all still lithium. Yeah, the
Right,
question is,
right.
are they nickel? Are they 4680s? Are they LFPs? And the problem with LFP is that those cells are almost entirely made in China. So we don't have a lot of domestic US LFP production. That's why Tesla bought that equipment from, I think it was CATL, and they're working on doing their own in-house LFP production there in Nevada. But yeah, that is one of the challenges for the Megapack specifically, is trying to get that LFP sourced domestically.
I love to see these big machines, right? Like I like boats and planes and trucks. So seeing a Tesla semi, seeing an electric semi, it definitely brings a smile to my face. You nailed it, John. This is going to save just a ton of emissions. So in terms of good battery use, if you are, a Tesla mission kind of guy, I think we've been waiting for these trucks to ramp up for a while now. Definitely excited to see them. The more companies that get involved, like when it was all Frito-Lay, they only have to follow certain routes. The chargers for these trucks only need to exist in certain places. But as they scale it out to more companies, it's preparing their charging network for these trucks across the nation. And yeah, I'm super excited to see this product scale.
Yeah, I wanted to say something there too, because I visited the US last year and drove around in San Francisco also with FSD and stuff like this. I've sadly didn't see a semi so far, but I want to sit in one day. But the interesting thing I've realized there is I didn't know that your roads, like your highway system, is just insane. Like I knew that already, but it is almost made just for this kind of way of transport, because we have railway systems here in Europe that are fine and good, but we also need trucking here as well. But US roads are just made for this, because it's so easy for a semi driving autonomously in the near future to just like go even just from like packing station, I don't know how they call it in English, where they transfer the goods, the huge things in the industrial areas. And I mean, this is just a huge deal. I mean, like electric trucks is not as astonishing as you might think. We also have some in Germany and Mercedes working on something, but hey, they are just not as many as Tesla put out for now. And I don't think that they're prepared as much, because FSD and I mean, lane keeping is fine and funny, but that this thing can drive alone or in a fleet, that's the holy grail. And this, what also people don't realize, is it's just oil. If the oil cost makes so much in the pricing of food as well, that means that food might get cheaper and stuff like this if those things are deployed. So there is a lot of like trucking is one of the most influential thing in also like regular cost of goods, and that's something that's still a little bit, I don't know, overlooked or something like that. It gets me still excited, but I mean, we're already used to stuff like this, so these concepts, but now we have to see when they're finally on the road at scale. But they will get there, I'm pretty sure.
What a trip when we see a caravan of these trucks.
The most important question is going to be whether they can do a light for all the for all the ballers out there, imagine PepsiCo doing a light show with like their 100 semi fleet. That would be insane.
Then they can finally have a competition for the Coca-Cola truck.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be dope.
All right, Joe. Yesla.
Deliveries begin again. So here we have Korea, Israel, freaking Ireland. Like everybody's getting Model Ys. And I know there was some talk about the drop in sales, but as we can tell, clearly see like they're ramping up and deliveries are heading out to everybody and people are excited, man. This is just more good news.
Yeah, I know that we've done a lot of work to try and eliminate the delivery wave, but when you do have a factory shut down to change over or something like the Model Y, you do kind of have to start it up a little bit again to refill all of your inventory channels. And so I do bring deliveries, and I think that might actually Germany have had lower sales, as they probably are going to not actually get allocated inventory until close to the end of the quarter, so that we can try and get as many of these deliveries further away from the factory started as possible.
Joe, this one's another one for you, bro.
I thought this was hilarious. So Dirty Tesla had posted that, they want less nag in FSD. And Elon, of course, replied, it's coming. He had reposted Elon's comment in January. Elon said it was coming in January. And then Elon confirmed, yeah, we are gradually
like several years ago.
Right. We are gradually reducing it, proportionate to improve safety. So, I mean, that's anybody who's driving it, you can tell like it nags you way less than it used to. So, I mean, this is like just all good news. And as we get closer and closer to June, it just becomes way more apparent of what they're capable of. And for those of us that are on 13, realizing what it's doing now is what that software was for the 1010. And everybody here on this podcast already knows, like, Tesla doesn't stay stagnant. So they've improved this, and you're already looking at some months later, and we don't have an update, but I'm pretty sure they have plenty of updates. And for what they've released, for what's coming, it looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting harassed here in Europe with the nag, even just with lane keeping, but it's just like the nag is so short here. It's like a few seconds to like 20 seconds or 30 seconds already things. It's just driving me insane because I know the capabilities in the US, and I'm like,
Yeah, we don't know your struggles, John.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
But many
I drive like this.
Probably in the comments, they feel with me. I hope they are hurt as much as
the nag is an interesting thing, because if I think about it, I wonder, it's intended to be a safety feature, but it may actually make things more dangerous, because at this point, using your phone on FSD is a hell of a lot safer than turning off FSD to use your phone, right? So I'm not suggesting that anyone do these things, but I am suggesting that I promise you there are Tesla drivers that are turning off FSD every day to use their phone, right?
I don't know any of those drivers. I think you're just smoking something, Penny.
They exist, I assure you. So it's just interesting when a safety feature could actually be, having a negative effect. And I would love to see nag eliminated at this point, at least under most circumstances, right? Like, I think that Tesla could build in some sort of environmental analysis, some sort of risk analysis, and like when risk is low, when the roads aren't crowded, when you're just going straight on a highway, just forget about the nag. We don't need it, right? And then remind the driver when we get into an area where it's more important.
Yeah, I mean, for example, Mercedes has the Drive Pilot, and sorry that I compare it now because it's not comparable, but They have level 3. This means they can read a newspaper there, but their strategy is just to disabling it every time they can. They can just, and it's not even really deployed. So yeah, yeah.
All right, so some pretty big news, I would say, that I think this is something that people have been waiting for, and I thought Sawyer did such an amazing job putting these together. So on the right, you have the new Model Y long range rear-wheel drive, the comparison, the old versus the new. So same price, EP range is increased by about 6%. Faster by 1.2 seconds. And then it also just has all of the other upgrades that come with the new Model Y. So I thought that, like I said, this is similar. This range is similar. I think the Model 3 long range gets 363 or something insane like that. So, now you're talking getting close to 400 miles of range, and really just, again, super efficient. So maybe not something you take up to the snow, but 99% of your driving is going to be on the, around the cities and long commuting. This is the car for you, especially if you have a young family too. But what were you guys' thoughts on this because this was probably the biggest news as far as like new products going this week?
Yeah, I think that price is insane. Just a few years ago, we were trying to get Tesla to sell a $35,000 vehicle, and everybody was complaining that it's impossible. It can't happen. It just can't happen. It's impossible. And now here we are. The best-selling vehicle in the world is $37,000, and it's got way more range than we were even talking about back then. I mean, it's good times.
Yeah, I have a comparison here, not for this, but the price range in general. I have the Model 3 Highland, and you have to imagine that I still have colleagues around me that spend the same amount of money for a VW Golf or something like that, which is just I'm like, wait a second, my car, and you really want to go there? It's just crazy because that's the thing. The entry level car, it's an entry level car in that price range. You can really do it, and I'm just astonished that they can pull it off still and keep the pricing as low. And now you see that the strategy of lowering the prices that might bug especially Hertz, for example, and stuff like this, but it makes sense to lower the price this way and have this baseline, because the baseline needs to be low, and then everybody then it will do it, and then adoption gets higher, and then more resources, more power is in that field to get the resources ready. More companies then will try to jump on. They already try to do it, but you know what I mean. It's just like, get this going, this electrification.
The value proposition was already so good for a Model Y. Every time I see, a Mach-E or a Hyundai Ioniq or whatever, I'm always just sort of shaking my head, same as you, like, man, do you realize what kind of car you could have got instead of that for the same price or less? And now that these Model Ys, are bringing even more value per dollar, I mean, I guess some people just want to be different, but I cannot put myself in the head of someone who buys a non-Tesla at this point, especially if you have been in an FSD ride, right? Like at this point, anything that doesn't have FSD is not even on my radar. And, and here's this car that would be just like massively valuable even without it. But it does have it. And I do think, we're still so early for Tesla.
Yeah, even if someone doesn't necessarily want to buy the FSD package up front, or even feel like it's worth it for them to subscribe to FSD right now, the fact that the car is capable of that and that you can subscribe to it in the future, like you're never going to be able to upgrade your Ioniq or your Mustang Mach-E to some sort of subscription that allows it to drive for you at a significantly higher capability than it can do straight from the factory. And so, that optionality of what, the fact that Tesla's continuing to work on the software works with the sensors that ship with the car, and it will get better. And then they will offer different, of options for you to be able to purchase something that is valuable to you in the future. Yeah. Without, if you don't have that on any of these other cars, it does just like, you have to shake your head.
100%. Well, with that said, that was the majority, and I actually got a cut a little early today. So I just want to say thank you so much to our special guests today, Penny and Jan. You guys are amazing. They are both tagged on X if you're following us there. Jan also has a channel called Tesla Fix. Penny does some amazing podcasts online, so make sure you check both of them out. And please patronize our regular hosts, both Hans and Joe. Again, they're tagged on X. And of course, Joe gave his best side profile. I think the other side's actually better, Joe, but no, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in this week. I hope each one of you guys has such an amazing week, and we will catch you all next week again on the Tesla Beat 98. And hopefully you all can make it to the X takeover. I think I'll just end it real quick with that. Let's get to this slide. So xtakeover.com, probably the largest Tesla enthusiast gathering in the world, coming together in the Bay Area. So hopefully we can have more news for you on details, but July 26th, xtakeover.com. We hope to see you there. Have a great weekend.
Hans is confirmed.
Hans just confirmed too. So if you want to see his face,
Hans confirmed.
And I'm the main speaker. Just wanted to say, just kidding. I'm confirmed to another.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.